This video is to help you with the last section in Chapter 3, Section 3.7. I'm not going to be writing right on the slides like you see in your notes, but I will be doing the same examples, so you need to kind of follow along with your slides. The first couple of slides in that section give the formula that you're going to use. So this entire section is about one idea, and that is about writing equations of lines. So when you want to write the equation of a line, you always need two pieces to the puzzle. Those two things that you need if you're going to write the equation of any line is, number one, you need a point, as the first slide says there. You need a point, not necessarily the y-intercept. If you have the y-intercept, that's good, but you don't necessarily have to have the y-intercept. And the second thing you need is the slope. Now, we've talked about different ways that you have to get slope. So you can either use the formula to find slope. So you can use the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And there'll be some cases where you'll have to use that formula. Or you may have to use the stuff that we talked about in the last section about lines being parallel or about lines being perpendicular, and use the symbol that you have for perpendicular. So once you have those two things, once you have a point and the slope, then you can use the formula that you have right there, the point-slope formula. This is the very first slide in 3.7 that says that y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. This formula will eventually lead you down to something that is in slope-intercept form, something that's in the form of y equal to mx plus b. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to plug in a value for m, which is the slope, and you're going to find that either with a formula or something about parallel perpendicular. And the other thing is you need to plug in the point. And where you're going to plug in the point is you're going to plug in the y value where it says y1, and you're going to plug in the x value where it says x1. So you're going to take the point that you're given, that sum x1 comma y1, you're going to plug it in, and then you're just going to simplify it to eventually make it look like y equal to mx plus b. So the very first example that you have on the slide there, on page 18 in your notes, says find the equation of a line with a slope of -5. So here they were nice enough just to tell me that my slope is -5, and the point on my line is -1, -4. So they've given me all of my information. I'm going to plug in -5 for my slope, and there's my x1 and my y1. There's my point that I'm going to plug in. So I'm just going to plug everything in, and I'll be real careful with my signs here. So this is going to be y minus my y value, which is -4, is equal to -5 times x minus my x value, which was -1. So I plugged in x1 and y1, plugged in for m, just like you're going to do every single time. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to do a little bit of algebra, do some simplifying, do some rearranging, to eventually make it look like something in y equals mx plus b form. So to do that, that would become y plus 4 is equal to -5 times x plus 1, minus a negative, making that into a positive. So over there on the right-hand side, I need to get rid of those parentheses, so I'm going to do some distributing first. So when I distribute, y plus 4 is going to be equal to, if I distribute that -5 into both of my terms there, I get y plus 4 is equal to -5x minus 5. So now I'm going to subtract 4 on both sides, because my goal is eventually to get it to y equals mx plus b form. And to do that, I got to move this value of 4 over that's with the y. So I'm going to subtract 4 on both sides. So -4 and -4. And when I do that, I'm done. I get y is equal to -5x, and -5 minus 4 is -9. Now, I know you were given all the information. You didn't have to go do any work to get any of the information that was there. But my point in doing that is that that's what you're going to have to do every single time, is you're eventually going to end up with something that's in slope-intercept form. You end up with something y equals mx plus b. But to do that, you're going to have to do the same procedure over and over and over. So if it tells you to write the equation of a line, then you want to use that point-slope formula. You want to use the y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And you're going to plug in for m, and you're going to plug in one of your ordered pairs that you're given, if you're given more than one, for x1 and y1 respectively. So let's look at the next example on the page 19. The bottom of that page is just, I'm going to kind of talk about that page as I'm going through the next example. So the next example says, want to write the equation of the line that goes through these 2 points. That goes to the point -2, +3, and through the point 2, 5. First thing we talked about is that if we're going to write the equation of the line, we've got to have 2 things. We've got to have a point. I can check that off because I have 2 points. So if I have 2 points, I at least have 1 point. So it doesn't matter which one I use. I can use -2, 3, or I can use 2, 5. And the other thing that I need, which they didn't come right and give me, is my slope. So I've got to do a little bit of work to get that slope. So if I have 2 points, like I mentioned to you a few minutes ago, if you have 2 points, you know how to find slope. You can use the slope formula. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, is I'm going to find that slope. So my slope is going to be the difference in my y values over the difference in my x values. Difference in my y values, that's going to be 5 minus 3. Difference in my x values, since I started with 5, I got to start with 2. So it's going to be 2 minus -2 for the difference in my x values. Difference in the y was 5 minus 3. Difference in the x was 2 minus -2. So 5 minus 3 is going to give me 2. 2 minus -2 is going to give me +4, because it's going to be 2 plus 2, which is 4. And 2/4 I can reduce down to 1/2. So now I have my slope. So I have a point and I have my slope. Now it does not matter which one you use. You can use -2, +3, or you can use 2, 5. I'm going to use 2, 5. This is the point that I'm going to use. I'm going to use the point 2, 5. So once I have a point, have my slope, now I can use my formula to write the equation. So I have that y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So y minus my y value that I'm going to use, which is 5, is equal to 1/2 times x minus my x value, which is 2. So that gives me that y minus 5 is equal to, and just like I did a minute ago, I'm going to distribute. So I'm going to do 1/2 times x. 1/2 times x is just going to be 1/2 x. And then I'm going to do 1/2 times -2. 1/2 times -2, I'm multiplying fractions, and half of 2 is going to give me 1. In this case, it's going to be -1. So 1/2 times -2 gives me -1. And then I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Because again, my goal is to solve this for y. So I'm going to add 5, I'm going to add 5. And that's going to give me that y is equal to 1/2 times x. And then -1 plus 5 will give me +4. There's my final answer there. Y equal to 1/2 x plus 4. If you had chosen to use your other point, and I'll let you check on your own, but if you had chosen to use -2, 3 instead of 2, 5, where I plugged them in for x1 and y1 respectively, you can work it out, but I guarantee you're going to end up with the exact same answer, which is that y is equal to 1/2 x plus 4. The only reason you have 2 points in that case is because you need those 2 points to find the slope. Once you have that, then you just have to use a point. So it doesn't matter whether you use -2, 3 or whether you use 2, 5. They're both going to give you the same answer. Next example, bottom of page 19. Asks you to write the equation of the line perpendicular. So now we got to use some of our other facts that we've talked about. So we want to write the equation of the line perpendicular to 2x plus y equal to 3, equal to -3, sorry. 2x plus y equal to -3, and containing the point -4, 5. Just like before, I need 2 things. I need my point. I can check that off because they gave me the point. They gave me the point -4, 5. And I need the slope. Well, the slope, they didn't come right out and give me. So I'm going to have to find both of those things. So the point that I'm going to use, is the point that they gave me, which is -4, 5. I know it looks like I'm just rewriting that point, but I do want to write over here in red so you can see. And now I need my slope. All right, so they tell me a couple of things. They tell me they want me to write the equation of a line that's perpendicular to that given line. Well, what we know about perpendicular is that if lines are perpendicular, their slopes are negatives of one another and they're reciprocals of one another. So I'm going to use that fact to find the slope of the line that I want. So I'm going to take the line that I'm given. The line that I was given, write it down here again so I can do this all in one step. is 2x plus y is equal to negative 3. So I have to put that one into slope-intercept form to find its slope. So if I move that 2x over to the other side, this becomes that y is equal to negative 2x minus 3. So I want the line that's perpendicular. The slope of the line here is negative 2. So for me, the one that I want to use is the one that's perpendicular. So I'm going to change its sign. So instead of it being negative 2, it's going to be a positive. And then instead of it being 2, I'm going to have to take its reciprocal. And if I take the reciprocal, that's going to be 1 over 2. So the slope that I'm going to use is going to be 1/2 because of the fact that they're perpendicular. So there's my two pieces of information that I need. I have my slope of negative 4, 5, and I have my, have my point of negative 4, 5, and I have my slope of 1/2. So now I can use my formula. My formula is that y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. I'm going to plug in all that information. So I'm going to plug in y minus my y value, which is 5, is equal to 1/2, since it was perpendicular, times x minus my x value, which is negative 4. So y minus 5 is equal to, it's going to be 1/2 times x plus 4. And so that gives me that y minus 5 is going to be equal to, distribute my 1/2. So 1/2 times x, that's going to give me 1/2 x. And then 1/2 times 4. 1/2 times 4 is going to give me positive 2. So now, to finish this out, I'm going to add 5 to both sides. So I'm going to add 5, I'm going to add 5, because we've got to solve for y every time. So we put it in y equals mx plus b form. So that gives me that y is equal to 1/2 times x plus 7. Pardon me just a second, I'm going to check my time here. Alright, I'm going to stop this one.